I love this interview today. I'm here with club legend and County Antrim legend Paddy McIlwaine. Thanks very much for being here today, Paddy.
Good to see you, Peter.
Great to see you too. And this is for our We Built All Saints campaign. And if you'd like to sign up to our club direct debit, click the link in the description. And if you'd like to buy a plaque for the side of the bill for yourself, family member, or business, click the link in the description to get involved in that too. So, Paddy, tell us about who introduced you to GAA. Was GAA in your family?
My father didn't play football, Peter, but as a boy, he would have took Curly and myself to matches. You know, in those days, everybody going to a match travel in the car, including the team, and very often our father was the man that would have a car load to a match. You know, yeah. So that was my earliest recollection.
What matches were you been going to?
The famous one in them days was Glenravel and Richard, and always ended in a war that lasted an hour after the game, boys knocking hell at each other and us standing with our mouths watching it. It was looking back, you know, it was savage. In those days, Peter, there was no fences round pitches. There would have been what we called paling posts and one strand of wire on top of them, you know, and that you were supposed to stand behind it, but 5 minutes into the match, that wire was gone and the posts were lying on the ground, and it was just a different game, a completely different game back in those days than what it is now. It's more civilized and more sophisticated now than what it was back then, I can tell you.
And Paddy, who were in your early memories, who were some of those players you remember watching?
Players, Peter?
Players, yeah.
The two top players in my early days watching Glenravel would have been Colin Malone and Liam Ford. They both played for the county, and they were both outstanding footballers. You know, they were 11 in a era. Colin was a tip-top centre half back, and Liam Ford was a midfielder who regularly kicked 50s over the bar. You know, and remember in those days you were kicking the ball, it was 3 times the weight the ball we were playing with. Now it was a big skin leather ball.
Yeah.
And when it was wet, it was heavy, and Liam Ford was a great exponent of dead ball kicking.
Unreal. And then growing up and starting to play, were you football only, or were you involved in the hurling as well?
I played a wee bit of hurling, but Peter, I think I would first of all emphasise I was just a workman-like footballer. I never was anybody great. Or I suppose my best achievement, my greatest achievement, was playing in an under-21 championship final that we lost to St Teresa's by 2 points, and I scored 2 points on it on that day. You know, and that's the as far as success would go at that level, that was probably the highlight of my playing career. I was part at that time. You would have been part of the Glenravel panel. It was very, very strong. You know, but way back in those days, the minor championship was a Southwest championship and a South Antrim championship, and the winners played each other every year. That was actually changed relatively recently. You know, in the last 20 years. And at one time, Glenravel won the Southwest Championship 6 years in a row. And I think they only won one all-county final out of that. Now, I wouldn't have been playing in any of those finals, but I had 2 cousins, Sean and Kevin Manili, who lived in the same estate as what I lived in, Sunray Crescent.
Yeah.
And they would both have been prominent members of that Glenravel team. Glenravel won the senior championship in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
And my neighbour, Tony Russell Macaulay, would have been the full-back in that team.
Yeah.
And it would have been a guy that if you'd been playing football out in the bit of green at the front, he'd just come out and started to coach you, you know, and they'd have been showing you how to block and how to catch the ball. And he was a real enthusiast. That was very well known around. He owned the Lensway Tavern at one time.
And Paddy,
a referee and
you glanced by there, you know, scoring 2 points in a championship. You call yourself a workman-like player, but you scored two points in an under-21 championship final. I mean, they don't really add up. Yeah. You know, what position would you have played?
I would nearly always have played either right corner forward or right half forward. And in those days, you played in the positions as they were laid out. There were no mass defences men behind the ball, you know, people, corner forwards played in the corner and cornerbacks marked them, you know.
And did you play with brother Curly?
Would have been moving, but the game hadn't evolved the way it has a bit evolved now. It's a completely different game now, Peter, you know.
Yeah. Did you play with Curly?
Well, Curly was 2 years younger than me, you know, so we wouldn't have played in the same teams. But Curly played as well, you know. He would be. In those days, Peter, he played under 15 and under 18. There was no 12, 14, 16. There was just two grades. Under 15 was the first time he played competitive football, and then minor was the next. So there was a big gap between grades, obviously.
Unreal.
The 21s would have been a championship just.
And moving into senior level, what would you have played much in the senior teams then?
The team that won the championship in the Antrim, or Glenravel won the Antrim Senior Championship in 1966, and there was two minors in the team, and there was two guys that there was actually three minors and two 17-year-olds in that team that won the championship. The two boys I'm talking about, my cousins Sean and Kevin and Ely. There was a guy called Alistair Stullion, a guy called Jared Higgins. They were all part of the Antrim team that won the Ulster Minor Championship that year, 66 or 67. I think Antrim won the Ulster Minor Championship. Yeah. And Sean was centre half forward, and Alistair was centre half back in that team. They were beat by Cork and Croke Park in the semi-final.
So tell me this, Paddy. Growing up in the house with Curly, were you coaching him, or is there much competition between you when it came to playing? Who's out the back playing?
There was an out green out the front, you know, and there was a football match on it every night, and there was a field down at the bottom of Cargan, and would have been maybe a soccer match every evening. Could have lasted 2.5 hours. In those days, Peter, there was nothing else to do. There was no computers, no video games. You know, you come home from school and you done your homework. The boys that didn't do any homework, and you would go out playing from after school to dark, either out the front or this field down just where the Green Hills pub is there now. There was
and later in your career, you moved to All Saints Ballymena. And were you involved in when the club first formed?
No, I wasn't, Peter. I left when I got married when I was 21.
Yes.
And I came to Ballymena, and at that time I was still playing for Glenravel, and through a series of events I don't want to talk about here, but I packed in with Glenravel. Where I was living up on the Derry Road, and I got involved with a soccer team called Waveney Swifts, and played for 3 or 4 years. It was handy that we played out literally out the front of my house. The home games were, and I was involved with them, and it was a novelty to me. I'd never played competitive soccer before, and I got involved, and I actually got involved in All Saints nearly by accident. We had bought the house in Mount Street, and we were renovating it, and I bumped into Brian McCambridge one day, who's in his first cousin, and told him about the house, and he volunteered to wire the house for me for nothing, and he did wire it for nothing, you know.
Wow.
I supplied the stuff, he done all the work. We were both working in Michelin at the time, and so he came to me then and said that there had been juvenile teams going for a few years. I don't know, the club must have been going 4 or 5 years at that time. I'm not sure just how long. And we're starting a senior team. Fellas like Jumbo, Raymond Shannon, and Enda McCann. There was quite a few boys.
Barney
no, Barney would have been too young then, though. Enda was the oldest of the McCanns. These boys were coming out of minor, and there was nowhere for them to go. Seamus McMahon.
Yes.
Peter
Mark McCormick's dad. Was he in that team?
Enda McCann, Paul McMahon. Paul. Was it McMahon or McCormick? There was 4 or 5 guys anyway that were too old for minors.
Yeah.
And they were starting a senior team and entered into the all county leagues. And basically they were anybody that was about that was prepared to pull on a pair of boots to be up the team. First game that All Saints played in the Antrim all county football leagues was against Gort Namona, now I'd feel up at Hugomount.
Yeah.
And I think we beat them that first day too. Gusty Reid was playing.
Yes.
And actually after about, I don't know how many, Sean Gallagher and wee Brian McLaren were the managers, you know, and Sean was involved with the minor team as well, and he didn't really want to be managing the senior team. Yeah. And anyway, he approached myself, and I approached Gusty Reid, and we managed the team that won Division 4 and won the junior championship. Our first championship. I don't know what year that was. Don't ask me about years, but it's all on record anyway.
Yeah.
We beat Glenarm in the junior championship final at Casement Park. Wow. And that was the first. We had been going, I don't know, 2 or 3 years at that time.
Yes.
Glenarm was one of the teams that we couldn't beat. We're a big, strong, physical team, and they always steamrolled us, you know.
Yeah.
And but that particular year, just boys were coming of age. Frank Delargy, and at this time we had guys like Seamus McCormick and Benny Best, and guys that had previous Brian Loughlin. He wasn't in that team, but he was about boys that had played for Glenravel, played for other clubs that we had got playing again, you know.
Yeah.
Seamus McMahon, then Seamus McCormick and Lenny McCormick. It was a good team. Denis Rocks played on it. Big. Barney Land was the keeper. And those guys, there was off that team, there was 3 or 4 of those guys that only played for Antrim.
Unreal.
Barney McCann had just been breaking into the team at that time, and Andy McTomney.
Tony McTomney, Paddy.
Tony played, but he wasn't in the team he wasn't in that team that won Division 4.
Oh, that was
Tony and Quigley came maybe the year after that to the club. I'm not sure. They weren't. I don't think any of the 2 of them were on that team.
Remember that? What? So that day in the junior championship, and you said we were underdogs. Who were some? If you remember, who was some of the maybe the standout players, or was it a total team performance?
They were actually the game was played. The game was allocated for Casement Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we won the Southwest Championship, and Glenarm won the North Antrim Championship, and Glenarm wanted it changed to the country, and I had a talk with Gussie, and I said that insist this was played in Casement Park because I knew the big pitch would suit us, you know, and they wouldn't be as intimidating away, you know, in Belfast. That was my thinking on it, you know. And we beat them out, they beat them quite handily. We beat them by a big score. So it was a really good team, you know. I still think, you know, the team that team went carried through and won division, promotion out of Division 3, you know, won the intermediate championship, and was it 98 or 99 or something? They won the first we have won 3 intermediate championships, but the first one.
I think it was 88, Paddy.
Sorry?
I think it was at 88 or 89. They won the first intermediate championship.
I'm not sure about the year, but we were still playing at Clubman, and we were drawn against St John's in the first round of the senior championship. And of course, Clubman wasn't up to senior championship specifications, and so we had to nominate a pitch, and the match was played in Portland Owen, and old Andy McCallion, who would have been Andy McCallion's father, said it didn't matter where they played Ballymena, they could beat them in William Street. And with that comment, right, Ballymena had no chance. Mickey O'Neill played in that. The Northern Ireland manager, Mickey O'Neill, was top of the left. Jimmy McErlean, a guy from Deloy called Speedy McAllister.
Yes.
Had come from Deloy, had played a bit of county football too, tough character. Yeah. And we beat St John's fairly handy. It was the biggest upset probably in Antrim Senior Championship football for I don't know how many years.
Wow.
We then got drew against Lamderg, who again were a Division 1 team, and we had just, I think we had won Division 2 that year, gained promotion. Not sure we'd won the intermediate championship the year before anyway, and we played Lamderg in Portland Owen.
Yeah.
Kevin Quigley at this time had been playing and had taken over as manager. Kevin was the manager at this stage, and we drew with Landerg and Portland on. And in the replay on the Wednesday night, I'll tell you who was playing for Landerg. The referee, what you call the top referee, the Landerg man there.
His name's escaped me.
Who?
I can't remember his name. His name's escaped me.
No, I know him. Was Brendan Tolan was playing for Landerg. I didn't realise at the time it was a conversation I had with him later on that he had been playing. The match ended a draw on Portland Own, and it ended in a draw again at Landerg. And there was 10 or 15 minutes each way extra time, and we were 5 points down in extra time and won it 6 points.
Wow!
So that was the turnaround. You know, I think we scored 3 something in the second half of that game, and it was basically a lot of the team that had won that junior championship them years previous was still playing. You know, Seamus McCormick, Mickey McVeigh had been one of the new boys. That, you know, Mickey's story. Mickey had come from Congo to Antrim.
Yes.
Morris McQuitty, who's an Australian now, I think.
Yes.
They were real top players. Those boys, Peter. I reckon that team was better than the teams we won the intermediate championship with. It's only a personal opinion, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
They were far tougher, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And good players, you know. Delargy was a great player. He's Niall and Connell and those boys' dad, you know. Barney
What position was Frankie?
Frankie would have been a corner. He played the same position that I would have played, only he was better at playing it than me. Barney McCann and Enda, and you know those guys were super athletes. They really were top players.
I think it Barney McCann, Timmy Conley, Frankie Delargy. Who else did you have there? I think all them boys end up playing for Antrim at a stage. Enda McAtamney.
Yeah. Enda and Barney and Timmy Conley were all on the Antrim team. Delargy would have been he was on the panel, but he wasn't regular on it. And Barney was the reserve keeper. There was a big boy called Liam. I can't mind his second name. St. John's man had been keeper for years, you know, and he was stand keeper when Barney was there. Yeah. So I don't know what he played a while again. He was always there. And he was a top keeper as well, tough and would have been down. He would have put his head where you wanted to put your hands, you know, that sort of a keeper. You know, it was fearless. Tammy would have been a year younger than Enda and McTomney and Barney McCann, so he'd been playing minor football. You know, he was like Paddy McIlwaine. Paddy McIlwaine was 16 years of age when that minor B1 championship team. Well, Tommy would have been playing minor, and he summer sort of a guy. He was a year younger than those guys, yet he held his own. We don't bother with him, you know. Yeah. All great players for different reasons. Tommy was the best fielder of all. Certainly ever in our club, he had hands on him like sticky paper, everything he caught. He never dropped the ball. McAtamney's strength was his mobility. You know, he was like a greyhound. He could have run. He could have carried the ball 60 yards and you couldn't get near him. You know, Barney was speedy and nippy, and they just were different types of players. Probably Tommy that's all a matter of opinion, you know, maybe the most complete of them all. But they were all great players for different reasons, you know, with different attributes.
Do you see any similarities between any of those players and some of our current generation, or you know, the likes of Sean McVeigh, and going through to now we have the likes of Paddy McIlwaine, Connor Stewart, etc. Is there any similarities you see in them versus some of those former players?
Connor Stewart and Enda McAtamney would be. I could see similarities on them. Big, tall, greyhound, mobile players. You know, and there was great players came after them. Peter, you know, the teams that won the intermediate championship. You know, I look at the likes of yourself and Andy Kelly and we have constantly, all the years I've been up there, have produced good players that were capable of winning big things, you know, and there are different ways you judge a player, you know. Longevity is I would have be a great one with me, guys that have given long service to the club the way you have and been around for years. Sean McVeigh is the same. Sean, I remember Sean playing under 16 football. Sean, I think, is a year older than you, is he? A couple of years older than you.
I think he's about 3.
And,
maybe 4.
sure, I remember Sean and Mick and McCarry would have played in the same under 16 team. I wasn't involved in managing that team, you know, but I saw plenty of them playing, you know. But Sean was a big skinny lad at that time. He wasn't the big tank of the man he is now, but he could have took and get plenty of abuse, you know. He'd run through tackles, you know, and he never lay down, you know. That was one thing he never done, you know. And he was the same when he developed to the senior team. I think Sean was in the senior team pretty early. If I'm not mistaken, I heard Mickey saying in his interview that he played with Sean and Rory in a game somewhere.
Yeah, they did.
Sons, like that, you know. But Mickey himself was a great. Mickey was another one of them tough players that could play football as well, you know.
Sean's the mix of the football and the McCann side of the football from his mum's side, and then the sheer toughness and competitiveness of Mickey on his dad's side.
Yeah, I think so.
And see the likes of coming through after that. Do you remember? So after the likes of Barney coming through, you know, Enda, Tamney, Timmy, you the likes of, you know, Bugsy McCann coming through, and Joe Paul McCann, and that group, and Sean McCambridge.
Peter and Paul were both grand footballers. At that stage, I would have been involved with Gusty Reid with stepped away from the senior team, but we were involved with various juvenile teams. There was one year they played under 13 and a half and under 15. They only done it for 1 year in the southwest. They changed the years to school years. So second year and fourth year, it's under 13 and a half and under 15 and a half. And we were looking after those two teams, and we both of them won the Southwest League that year. Boys that played in the under 15 and a half team, boys like PJ Among from the managed Lochgiel. PJ was living in Ballymena at that time. He was in that team, and there was a big fella called Desi. He's involved with a Hawthorn now, but he was the goalkeeper on it. Desi. Can't mind his second name. Goal memory's not great, Peter, but we beat Glenravel in the final at that one, and we beat Corrigan in the under 13 and a half final. That under 13 and a half team would have been Cormac McGreevy, Mickey Kane, Paul Curry, Liam Foxy Maven, Paul Reid, who was Gussie's son, or Emmett was involved in it. Sean O'Kane's or Sean.
Sean O'Kane.
Martin O'Brien. Martin O'Brien was on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Martin was Sean's older brother. Really good player too. Really tough player, and Liam Lee. That was a really good set. We beat Cardigan in the final by about 20 points, Peter, that year. And I'll tell you who I can remember. The only Cardigan boy I can really remember was playing at that time was the oldest one of them, McCanns. Those Cardigan McCanns, the boy that is the gym now.
Eamon,
he was playing at that. Like there was a bit of a punch up with him and Martin O'Brien, and the referee let the two of them the box for about 2 or 3 minutes, and said, right, throw the ball at it, didn't put anybody off. We won it really well that year, you know. And then later, as you know, I got involved with you boys. I think I was managing yourself and Eric Kieran and Andy and those boys from you were at 10, right through to 18 years of age. That one group of players. It started with me, and Kieran came home one evening. He had transferred from All Saints to St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how did you get on? It's no good, there's no football out of it, there's nobody to take football. And I said, I'll get them on the evening. Thinking I was only going to get them for a couple of evenings. I was there for, you know yourself. You were at St. Louis, weren't you?
Yeah. I think you did it for maybe they got at least a decade, maybe. Did you really do it?
I was on there quite a while, you know, and then
Oh,
a lot of you guys at that time, when you were coming out of primary school, were starting to play under 12 football. And again, you know, I look at the difference and what's happening in the club now. You know, people tell the tale of it. Oh, it was far better in our days. It wasn't better. It was different, but it wasn't better. You know yourself on a Monday night, we'd have been training up there at St Patrick's. There would have been an under 12 and an under 14 squad there, and there would have been a pile of wee boys that were maybe 9 or 10. And myself and Brian McLaren might have been there trying to take the two teams plus these boys. I used to send Brian down with the wee young boys down onto the other pitch, you know, because they were too wee to be playing. We're playing the under 14s and under 12s played together. So Paul McCann, great days, you know.
and did you ever see them? They were quite small. In those, like you look back at the photos, Paul and Peter and other, they were quite small, but they went on to become absolutely great big players for the club. Did you see? You know, they say the likes of Bugsy there. Did you see Bugsy becoming, you know, the player he did become? Because he was quite small.
Super athlete, Peter. He was a greyhound, you know. He was actually very small in them teams. He was always one of the smaller guys in them teams. He actually played in that under 15 and a half team that won the championship that year, and he would only have been maybe 13 or something at that time. But he was always small, but his athleticism and natural ability always got him through. Paul was the same. Paul was a different type of player, tough, but a good player and an eye for goal and an eye for scores, you know. And they were you always knew them boys were destined to get through to play senior football. And a lot of it to do with family tradition too. You know, you knew they were going to keep at it.
Yeah. There's a few boys you were mentioning there over the years, like Paul Curry's, the Foxy Mavens, we said Michael and Il there, Shane McQuillan, players like that. You know, are there any? What were their players like growing up? And is there any other players that kind of got away you'd wish that they kept at it?
One player out of the group that I was involved with, the player I believe that would have been a great player and probably could have been on to play senior football was Keith Muscella.
Yeah,
I think Keith was one of the most gifted players ever I met, but his attitude was it didn't match his ability. Let's put it like that. You know, was absolutely phenomenal. The under 16 final, we played Corrigan twice that year. We played Corrigan in the league in Ballymena. The Corrigan team had Tomas McCann, Jordan McCann, what do you call the big centre half back?
Justin Crozier.
Enda McGrog, and there was about 5
Kevin
or 6 guys in that.
Kevin Boyd
play senior football, Corrigan, and we beat them up there in the league. At this time, Slimish Park was open, and I remember it was very tight, and Keith Muskelly scored a superb goal away near the end of it to win it. And then we got through against them again in the semi-final, and everybody said, the first game's a fluke, you lot beat them boys, and we beat them in the semi-final again. And then remember the Loy beat us in the final.
Remember that game in the league? I think Keith scored 1-8 that day, and I think Corrigan scored 11 points that day, and Keith scored 1-8 himself, so that sort of showed you who he was. And then in the semi-final, that was a good semi-final, but in the final there was I think he was about 15 at the time, a boy for Dunloy hitting all the frees, Paul Shields, and we didn't see him coming at all. I think he was kicking them over from everywhere.
Big Kevin McQuillan still playing senior football for Dunloy, and he was playing that day. You know, I don't know who the other boys were playing, but he was playing, you know. So that was really, I suppose, that was the last team that I managed.
That was a brilliant year. I remember over the years. Like, where did you get, Paddy? Because see, growing up, like your training sessions were always like ahead of the time. Like you had us doing, ladder work. I think you made the ladders in your backyard. You had us doing ladder work. I mean, you were going to boys' doors every game to get them to come to the matches. Where did the enthusiasm come for? Was that
probably something that came to me without thinking, Peter? I think I would have thought much about it, but I said catch your salon and stay in the house. You know, you were probably in a car many a time, me round up and doors.
What was the most number of players you were bringing to a game at one time in that wee car of yours?
Oh God. I might remember at a big ball of a 2-4-4. I'm sure there were nights we were going to places like one night last we 7 or 8 and easy, you know. There were nursing in the back seat. There were no seat belts, and there were 3 or 4 in the front and 3 or 4 in the back. And I remember pulling at Sean Gallagher one day out to Glenravel, and he had a big Ford Cortina, and this is true. It was a minor match, and every bump in the road that he had, there were sparks coming. The exhaust was hitting the road. The sparks were coming up the road.
There, Paddy, what about the likes? You talk about Northern Ireland, current Northern Ireland manager.
The story about Mickey, and it goes back to the best story I can tell you about Mickey. It was that team that beat St John's in the first round of the senior championship. Mickey had been playing that year for us in Division 2. He got sent to Coleraine in the Irish League, and he quit coming to the Gaelic. And he got away to games. He was doing all right with Coleraine, then he was dropped. And he came back up to the Gaelic again. He just had started to play just before the senior championship game. I think Mickey scored out. I remember that St John's right back was off at half time. The way it was marking Mickey, he was destroying him, you know. Yeah. But then the next thing they get Coleraine were drawn and a European Cup game against I think it was Dundee United. Stand to be correct on this, but I'm pretty sure it was Dundee United, and they were short of players, and Mickey was called back up again. He went and had a stormer against Dundee United for Coleraine, and got signed professional shortly after, went to Dundee. And that was the end of Mickey's career with the All Saints. You know, he could have been a kind if he'd stayed at the Gaelic. If that had been his main interest, he would have. I know that it would have been a county footballer, you know.
Champing at the bit to get their hands on it. And see, over the years, Paddy, you travelled. You used to travel with the County Antrim team. Did you cover them, press-wise?
Yeah.
The team that went to that beat the Great Kerry team, or sorry, that played the Great Kerry team, and were beating them at half time. You travelled with them. Did you cover them?
Yeah. The Saffron Gale wasn't going then, but the Ballymena Chronicle was going, and the Ballymena Chronicle actually sold in Belfast. There was somewhere in the Undertown Roads sold 100 Ballymena Chronicles every week. Wow. It was all the GAA men, obviously. They weren't getting the coverage. You know, the clubs weren't getting the coverage that they thought they were getting with us. And in '89, Antrim reached the All Ireland hurling final. They were beaten Tipperary, and the Footballers won Division 3 North of the National League. There was a Division 3 North and a Division 3 South. There was the 5 boys that I mentioned earlier were all on the Antrim panel, and I was approached with Jared Higgins, who was a selector, about would I be interested in going to cover their games and for the Ballymena Chronicle, and I said, Jared, it wouldn't make any sense for me. It cost me far more to cover them. He said, no, but the county will pay your expenses. You'll take a carload of boys to the matches. Brilliant. And I stayed down south with them 3 or 4 times that year. Stayed in County Westmeath, what you call it, Westport. They played Roscommon and is it McHale Park? I think Roscommon played. They were in Division 3 that year too. They actually drew with Roscommon, and they were actually beaten. They were beaten in the Division 3 final that year by Wexford, and Drogheda, either Dundalk or Drogheda. But they qualified for at that time. They got qualified for the quarterfinals of the National League, and they drew Kerry and Croke Park, and I stayed overnight in Dublin with them the night before it.
You must have been very proud seeing all those Ballymena players playing that team, and I think as unbiased as you are in County Antrim with your reporting, I heard you were giving a bit back to some of the other team's players for some of the tackles they were putting in Ballymena players.
I probably was. I probably should have been. I was probably talking along the line when I should have been listening. Okay,
Your attack on Barney McCann that day, you said, was very bad.
I remember Antrim playing Meath. I don't know what it was, and it must have been some of the divisions of the National League. Maybe Antrim got to Division 2 at that time. I'm not sure. And I remember boy hitting Barney a wide slap. There was two brothers played for Meath. Meath at that time, were beating Dublin and championship games. Meath had the upper hand in Dublin for quite a few years. Liam McHale and those boys, that big boy, not Liam McHale, the commentator there, the guy the real good team. But I remember a boy hitting Barney a real dirty one, when I was walking down the line taking photographs, and I remember shouting in mouth when I shouldn't have been saying nothing, calling him.
And
giving him
see then through the years, like that was an amazing team that played against. Did you cover the game against Kerry?
Very good. It was a very good team. Paul McIlwaine from St Paul's. The sons there playing. A son there playing for St Bridget's now and was in the Antrim minor team last year. Paul, he scored one of the best points ever I've seen that day, way out below the hoop and stand. He left foot. It must have been 40 yards out over the bar. I remember McAshea handy towing the ball up the middle of the field, and McAtomney 5 yards behind him and catching him and taking the ball out of his hand, just flicking it away and away with the ball himself. Them boys really, Barley and those boys had lifted them. They didn't freeze in Croke Park. They were just beating a better team. That was probably Pat Spillane was still playing then.
Pat Spillane was playing, yeah. Over the years, you've coached so many boys. Over the years, you've coached so many boys over the years who've went on to play for Antrim. And Paddy McIlwaine said to me, he says he was always so proud when he got on Antrim and he sees you in the sideline. It really G'd him on, like a fellow saint. And he said he wanted to ask you, he's like, what did you feel like whenever you were part of Ballymena's first junior winning championship team, and now you're starting to see players playing for Antrim? Like, what type of emotions do you get when you see All Saints players take the field for Antrim?
Another, Paddy McIlwaine, another phenomenal player, and Paddy was like Timmy Conley. Paddy was the midfielder of that team that won the B championship. He was only a 16-year-old. It was under 18, and he outcaught everybody that night. And Casement, that was Casement Park that they beat St Paul's in that final. And Connor Stewart always played in teams that he was a year young on, and it was always able to hold his own. There may be something in that, the guy at Sean 2 years before he should be Sean, there's maybe a story there, I don't know. But Connor Stewart has been phenomenal for Antrim. He's been absolutely outstanding. Connor Stewart under what you call the guy who was there before
Enda McGinley.
The McCanns.
Enda McGinley.
Enda McGinley, sorry, I couldn't mind his name there. Connor Stewart started every game under Enda McGinley, and that in its own is a great recommendation of a player that he's starting constantly, and first time Connor started and they beat Louth down in Louth, and I would have said, it shows you a little I know about it, Connor Stewart's not ready for playing at that level. But over the year, he proved me wrong, and he has proven me because he has worked very hard with Antrim. He obviously is. The boys that don't put it in, Peter, get found out very quick, whether it's at club level or county level. And there's a certain commitment that you have to make it as a county player. And he's obviously given that sort of commitment.
Paddy, sums up your selfness as you nominated Denis Martin for the All Ireland Club Member of the Year, and he got it. Right, yeah. And
I was actually chairman of the club that year, Peter. I was chairman for 1 year, and there was a letter come in. The company that sponsored it, there was an All Ireland Clubman of the Year, and there was an Ulster Urban and an Ulster Rural Clubman of the Year. And there was a letter came in one time, and somebody said, I was sort of threw aside no point in filling that, and there's no chance of winning it. And I said, what is it? And Seamus Crummy, I think, was the secretary, and he said, do you want to take it and fill it in if you think that there's somebody in the club? I said, Denis Martin. And he said, well, aye, of course. So I sat down one day and wrote a piece. Denis, it was the year they were building Slimish Park, and Denis and another young boy built that building, all the brickwork and that. Denis Martin done all that. There were no contractors in there doing that. He built the place himself. They employed a young bricklayer as well. Denis took a heart attack shortly after that there, and was in hospital and all that. Denis was the driving force in hurling here in Ballymena, for years. He was the guy that drove hurling on when I wouldn't have survived without boys like Denis, and I just fell on a piece and sent it in, and the next thing we got word through that Denis had won the Ulster Rural Clubman of the Year, and that there was the final, the All Ireland, was going to be nominated in Dublin. Can't even remember the name of the hotel. And then I myself went down, and the club paid for us to stay overnight, and Denis and the wife was there, Seamus Crummy and his wife, and he didn't win the All Ireland when he won the
Ulster.
He won the Ulster, maybe.
I think he won the All Ireland.
I think he did. He won the All Ireland Rural one. That was it.
Yeah.
It was a great night. It was, and it was just about there. It was nearly 3 onto a pile onto the scrap meal and left there. Just I left it, and one day I was sitting in the house my own. I sat down. I just wrote out a piece, and for some reason. But I mean, it wasn't my writing. It was the man himself. It was the man himself that won it, and deserved to win it,
Building Slimish Park, it wasn't easy. There's some controversy from some other people. If you could sum up, building that those days, sum up in like a couple of words. What was it? How would you sum up those days for the younger ones who maybe didn't understand what it was like?
Community, Peter. There was a hard core of people there. People have already mentioned people like Brian McCambridge and Sean Gallagher and Seamus Crummy and Denis Martin. Probably boys I'm leaving out there. I'm not deliberately leaving anybody. I can't think. No, but there were boys. Charlie Boyle, God rest him, was a real driving force. Charlie owned the pub at the bottom of William Street. With a major contribution to our club. Those guys were, those were the forefathers of what we have now. A lot of the young people that are playing, I don't even know who they are. They're still there. Brian's still there. Brian will be there. Brian McCambridge will be there the day days. And I'm sure the great award for him was seeing his son Sean playing, and now he's seeing his grandsons, Brian Tom, Michael Reid. Those are his grandchildren. So there's always a great satisfaction in seeing family playing the game when you stop playing yourself. You sort of relive it. I'm having the pleasure of seeing my 2 granddaughters are up there now. It's up there playing under 10, under 12 girls football. And when they come on the Sunday night, that's what the conversation's about. How did the Gaelic go today, or how did it go this week? And the girls will be telling me they were playing Tirnanoga, they were away at Blitz or whatever, And it's what makes the GAA different from other sports, Peter. It's the sense of community, the family, the family thing that's there. I believe.
And Paddy, see, speaking of your granddaughters and other younger players in the club, when we do lose players as they get that older, just distractions come in. What advice would you give the younger players of Ballymena to help them achieve their potential and kick on to hit on the great heights of some of our other top players and volunteers?
Work hard and listen to your coaches. And if you're not been selected, it's not always because you're not good enough. It's because the guy that's picking the team at a particular time has decided you're not good enough. Believe in yourself. And keep at it, and the opportunities will come around.
Here, Paddy, thank you so much for all your time today.
All right,
mind me, I think maybe your dinner's went cold there, but I really appreciate the time. Not just give us the day, but Jesus, the countless hours you've given us all. Can't say thank you enough.
It was all a pleasure, Peter. All a pleasure.
Legend, big man.
Down for your lap. Don't
Talk
forget,
to you soon,
don't
Paddy.
forget to get into your laptop. All
I'll
right,
come
Peter.
down again.
Thank you.
Take care, bye.